Welcome back to another fun-filled show. I'm your host. He is Blanchard, aka Free Blanche, aka Blanstradamus, aka Blanchy Kruger. And today's title is False Confidence and Low Self-Esteem, the Black Man's Favorite Two-Piece Combo. And I meant to say it again. False confidence and low self-esteem, the Black Man's Favorite Two-Piece Combo. And I wanted to change my name, but never mind. Anyway, let's just get into it. Hope y'all doing well today. Let me just go to a I'm sounding like RFK. Forgive me, y'all. I'm trying to find. Here we go. Here we go. Hope y'all can see this. Forgive me for moving slow today, y'all. All right, I'm ready.
Black people is some of the most racist people I've ever seen in my entire life.
Okay, now see, when you hear things like that, it's just kind of like you're going a little too hard on behalf of the white supremacists, not even on behalf of whites. I think everyday average white people probably wouldn't even say anything like this. This is a bit extreme. This is the kind of rhetoric you're going to hear from white supremacists, and it doesn't have any evidence behind it. You say that black people are some of the most racist people you've ever seen. No one who is familiar with history, even at a summary level, would make such a peculiar claim. For example, if you look just in America without even going to international examples, which we shall, you don't see the history bear out what he's saying. Anytime you had any organized group of black people, even if they were, black pride or black power or black supremacists under whatever banner, you never find any organized level of effective hatred against white folks. You don't find violence. You don't find, hate preaching at a significant level. It just doesn't exist. There is no evidence for it. Conversely, anytime you find a group that purports to be a white nationalist group, you always invariably find violence. Skinheads, we call them the Ku Klux Klan. And we know that the racism is so embedded in the American white ruling class that to this day, the Ku Klux Klan, who has murdered a multitude, have never been identified as a terrorist organization. And I think that they would have to be the earliest example of a terrorist organization in the United States. And for that reason, at this point, I find it hard to take Anton seriously. It in fact saddens me because he's just lying right now. And I have to ask myself, well, why are you lying like that? That's so weird.
Black people is some of the most.
So Marquette is so how can I explain him? He's very disingenuous. So you notice what he did. He used a term, he said effective hatred, and he also brought up history. So Anton Daniels is making a statement about black people now, today. Today, black people are the most racist group in the world because black people make everything about race. So for Marquette to get on here and say that black people don't speak hate is insane. Black people get on national television and say the craziest things about white people. He's talking about hate groups who don't make national television. He's talking about small friends groups. I'm talking about black politicians that are known get on TV and talk crazy about white people. People like even Michelle Obama, Jasmine Crockett, prominent black people, Farrakhan, you can name anybody. Prominent black people get on mainstream media and talk crazy about white people. You don't see the reverse. You don't see anybody white in mainstream media, whether they be conservative or liberal, talking crazy about black people. Well, I'll take that back. Joe Biden, the Democrats talk crazy about black people, but Marquette gives them a pass. But my issue with Marquette is that he's being dishonest and very disingenuous. He knows good and well that black people are racist. It's not even a question. It's not even a question. You cut the TV on, think about it. You can get on TV and say white people are racist as a blanket statement, and nobody will bat an eye. If you get on TV and say that black folks are racist, it'll be a problem. What Anton Daniel said is the truth. Corey Holcomb talks about white people on his show every day, all day, negatively, and the show is not canceled. Marquette, you talk about white people every day negatively, and your YouTube channel isn't canceled. No black person spewing hate has a consequence talking about white people. On the other hand, if a random white person with no political influence, no social clout, no nothing, is a regular white person, gets caught on camera saying the N-word, they become famous. That's how rare it is for white folks to be racist in today's society. It's so rare that a random white person can use the N-word and go viral. A black person calling somebody white a racial slur doesn't go viral. Why? Because it happens all the time. So Marquette is very, very dishonest. Very dishonest. And he's a grifter. And I'm going to get into it. I'm going to play it again.
Black people is some of the most racist people I've ever seen in my entire life.
Okay, now see, when you hear things like that, it's just kind of like you're going a little too hard on behalf of the white supremacists, not even on behalf of whites. I think everyday average white people probably wouldn't even say anything like that.
That's not a white supremacist talking point. That's not a white supremacist talking point. A white supremacist talking point isn't that black people are the most racist. They may say that black people are intellectually inferior, they're violent, they're savages, but a white supremacist talking point isn't that white people are racist. That is not a white supremacist talking point. It's not. And what I find interesting about Marquette is that all of his talking points literally parrot what Democrats and liberals say. He's claiming to be this revolutionary, but everything he said, tell me, what does he say different than a Democrat and a liberal? Let me ask you all a question. If there's this so-called revolutionary takeover, this revolutionary fight, and it's a bunch of black revolutionaries like Marquette and this other guy on this one podcast called Grits and Eggs or Cheese Grits and Catfish, whatever this podcast, that guy, the fat guy with the dreads, if they're going to be some kind of revolution, do you think that these guys are going to turn down the money from the liberals and Democrats? Think about this. Think about these black folks wanting to have a revolution, having the same talking points as Democrats and liberals. The Democrats and liberals come along and they're going to offer them money. Are they going to reject it and say, no, we want to have a pure black movement with our own money? Of course not. You see, what you all, if you pay attention, you can see this in writing on the wall, is that if these people ever want to organize and do something, they're going to have to be backed by liberals and Democrats and LGBTQs. Because think about it, they don't have the numbers. Think about a revolution. Think about these quote unquote black revolutionaries. They don't have the numbers. So they're going to have to allow the gays, the trans, the white liberals, the Democrats, they're going to have to allow them to come into the group just for the numbers and the money. See, he doesn't even realize it yet, but he's already sold out. He's already sold out. Let's continue.
This is a bit extreme. This is a kind of rhetoric you're going to hear from white supremacists, and it doesn't have any evidence behind it. You say that black people are some of the most racist people you've ever seen. No one who is familiar with history, even at a summary level, would make such a peculiar claim. For example, if you look just in America without even going to international examples, which we shall, you don't see the history bear out what he's saying. Anytime you had any organized group of black people, even if they were, black pride or black power or black supremacists under whatever banner, you never find any organized level of effective hatred against white folks.
You see what he said? He said effective hatred. Look at that. He didn't say it wasn't hatred. He didn't say it wasn't racism. He said it wasn't effective. Well, whose fault is that? Whose fault is that y'all can't do something effectively? Notice what he just said, it wasn't effective hate. So he's acknowledging that these black supremacist group hated white people. They just weren't effective. You know why they weren't effective, Marquette? Because they were paid and formed and ran by communists and Marxists. That's why. The reason why these groups are never effective is because they're not organic groups, Marquette. Marquette, there's no organic black groups. Every organic black group, every black group you think's organic has its roots in communism and Marxism, all of them. There is no organic black organization. And if it is, y'all destroyed it. Was it the Southern Christian Leadership Conference? Maybe that was. Maybe Booker T. Washington's movement, Joseph H. Jackson's movement, maybe those were organic. But look what y'all did to them. You don't even mention them anymore. You hate them. Y'all have swapped out Ben Carson for George Floyd. But let's continue.
You don't find violence. You don't find, hate preaching at a significant level. It just
Look what he said again. You don't find hate preaching at a significant level. Look at the word choices. He's a trickster and he's a swindler. This is how the devil talks. Effective hate. Effective hate. Let me see. Watch this.
Violence. You don't find, hate preaching at a significant level.
Hate preaching. Effective hate, and hate preaching at a significant level. So he's acknowledging hatred and hate preaching, just not effective and significant. In other words, white folks don't care. That's what he's saying. He's saying when black folks do it, white folks don't care because white folks know deep down inside, y'all ain't gonna bust a grape. Y'all wouldn't bust a grape in a food fight. Y'all wouldn't bust a grape if you were standing on it. Everybody knows that black people are not only racist towards white people, but guess who else? Other black people. See, what Marquette's leaving out is that black people have done more killing of themselves than anybody else. Black people have done more killing of themselves than everybody else. You can take all of the lynches in history and it only accounts for about a quarter of the homicides every year, a quarter. So that means in a quarter of 1 year, 3 months of 1 year made up for all the lynches in history. You still got 3 more quarters to go. You still got 9 more months to go. That's how much black folks have been killing. Even Malcolm X told you. He said, black folks do a lot of shooting and stabbing of each other, though they profess to be nonviolent. Malcolm X said that. Black people do it was so bad, he said that Harlem needs a hospital. Malcolm X said Harlem needs a hospital, not because of malnutrition, not because of disease, not because of pregnancies, not because of sickness. He said Harlem needs a hospital because black people do a lot of shooting and stabbing of each other, though they profess to be nonviolent. All of these black revolutionaries like Marquette and them, they all read from the same liberal Democrat script. It's the same thing. They say the exact same thing. So you notice he keeps going back to history because he can't talk about current times because he knows currently black people are very racist. He knows that. Currently, black folks are racist. He knows that. That's why he's going back to the KKK, which I might add had black members. Remember that? The KKK used to have black members in it. But let's continue.
Just doesn't exist. There is no evidence for it. Conversely, anytime you find a group that purports to be a white nationalist group, you always invariably find violence. the skinheads. We call them the Ku Klux Klan. And we know that the racism is so embedded in the.
Now, again, black people love lies. Tell me when the last time you saw a white hate group do anything. And then tell me when you see somebody black randomly do something to somebody white. The data's already out. Black people attack white people disproportionately. It's not even close. It's not even close. Because they put a battery in black folks' back and told them it's okay to attack white people because they're all racist. But Marquette's going to sit here and talk about skinheads and white nationalists. Show me when. What violence have skinheads and white nationalists done that is more than what black folks have done? Black folks is hurting. Black folks kill white and black. Black folks kill white and black. Black people intentionally target other black people. Intentionally. They make songs about it. They make dances to it. They run in the house, shoot the mama, shoot the baby. They abort their babies. Like the amount of violence in the black community is just, it's so astonishing that black folks have just become immune to it and numb to it. Black folks are so traumatized by the violence in the black community that they just blame white people. That is so bad in the black community that black folks literally blame white people for it. They say white folks putting on masks, putting on black masks, going to the hood and shooting. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
American white ruling class that to this day, the Ku Klux Klan, who's murdered a multitude, have never been identified as a terrorist organization. And I think that they would have to be the earliest example of a terrorist organization.
Have the Bloods been labeled a terrorist organization? Have the Crips? Have the Vice Lords, Gangster Disciples? Has any of these black gangs been labeled a terrorist group? And we can all agree these black gangs have killed way more than the KKK and the white nationalists combined. We know this. So these black gangs have been killing for decades and never been called a terrorist group. These black gangs have literally been killing for decades and never been called a terrorist. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of deaths, never been called a terrorist group. So again, Marquette is very disingenuous and he's a liar. Because black people lie. They lie. And black people lie because it is a cultural byproduct. Meaning that if you grow up in black culture, your morals are already screwed and shot. Because what God says and what black culture says are two different things. Let's continue.
The United States. And for that reason, at this point, I find it hard to take Anton seriously. It in fact saddens me because he's just lying right now. And I have to ask myself, like, well, why are you lying like that?
No, Marquette, why are you lying? The question is, Marquette, why are you lying? Peace to the ain'ts, not peace to the saints, peace to the ain'ts. Marquette, why are you lying? This is what's funny about these guys, right? Think about this for a second. Indulge me for a second, y'all. Indulge me for a second. Let me ask y'all a question. If you were playing a sport, let's say you're playing a sport in high school. Let's say the sport was track. And let's say every track meet that had white people in it, they were allowed to start 10 meters ahead of you or 20 meters or whatever. So you knew at the end of the year at the state track meet, you were going to see white teams and they would always have an advantage over you. So that means no matter what meet you went to at the end of the year, you have to face white teams and those white teams will be given an advantage. In other words, those white teams will be guaranteed to win. Now my question is, if you got to the end of the year, or scratch that, beginning of the year, would you give 110% in your training just to get to the end of the year and lose? Honestly, Would you give 110% knowing that if a track meet had a white team in it, it was going to be rigged? See, this is the great lie that's told. And the great lie that's told is that black people like Marquette are saying that the game is rigged, meaning that white folks have a system that is unfair for black people. My question is, if you're in an unfair system, which means no matter what you do, you still can't defeat racism, then my question is, are you going to give 110%? Yeah, I'm going to the gym. I am. Are you going to give 110%? Because what they're telling me is that black people, in spite of playing in a rigged system, in spite of playing in a rigged game, they're giving their best, they're giving their all just to get somewhere and fail. I don't believe it. I believe that if a person thought the game was really rigged, they would never give 100%. I believe if a person was an athlete, if they were training for a sport, knowing in the end it would be rigged, they wouldn't give 110%. Why would they? Why would you give 100% if you knew the game was rigged? You wouldn't do it. So I'm trying to figure out, from Marquette's perspective, if the game is rigged, have you given 100%? And if you have given 100%, that means the game isn't rigged. Derry said the system is in black people's minds. It's true, because Marquette's going to tell you that he gives 110% of everything he does. If that's true, then you believe the system isn't rigged then, because you believe you'll be rewarded for giving 110%. But the fact that you believe that disqualifies everything that you say. Now, if you gave 50%, I'll believe you, because you're saying, why would I give 100% if I'm going to lose in the end anyway? But Marquette will tell you that he gives 100% in everything that he does. So if that's true, by default, you don't believe in this so-called system. You don't believe in being held down. You don't believe in being held back. You believe that if you give 100%, you're going to be successful. That destroys any argument of white supremacy, racism, system, anything. Because white supremacy, racism, the system, these things only work if they have a guaranteed limitation on your life. That means that this so-called system has to guarantee that people like Marquette only go but so far as a guarantee. Like in India, they have a caste system. That caste system set in stone. It's like this. Black folks have never experienced that in America, ever. Black folks have never experienced that in America, ever. Never. Now they're going to say, yes, they have, Blanche. Remember, they haven't. When black people were slaves, they bought their freedom. When black people were slaves, they bought their freedom. If you look throughout all of America's history, black people owned slaves, bought their own freedom, owned land, owned businesses, were rich, went to school, started colleges. Like if you look through all America's history, black people have done the same things as white people. So this so-called system y'all talk about, this so-called system has never been able to actually put things into motion where it could actually stifle an entire group of people. It's never happened. It's never been done. Carter G. Woodson said the Negro not being able to make it in America was never even thought of, even heard of, until the Negro started going to college and started listening to communist white professors. He said the Negro not being able to make it in America was a foreign idea that was never considered. It only got considered when the Negroes like Marquette went to college and these white liberal communist professors told them they were oppressed. My grandfather had a 4th grade education, owned land, houses, everything. So again, my grandmother was a nurse. Again, my grandmother was born in what, 1914? And she became a nurse. My grandfather was born in 1917. And he became a landowner, businessman. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. Speaking of black folks not being racist. Speaking of black folks not being racist. Speaking of black folks not being racist. Just give me 1 second. Just give me one. Oh, where's my clip, man? Where's my clip? Oh, y'all, I can't find my clip, man. Dang it. I know I added that clip. Did I? Maybe I didn't. Here goes one right here, though. I want a clip from C-SPAN. Let me try to find on YouTube. Hold on. See if I can find on YouTube. Let me see if I can find on YouTube real quick. Let me see if I can find it. Let me see. Oh, I found it. I found it, Marquette. I found it right for you. I found it. I found it. What's this guy's name, though, so I can find the actual clip? Let me see. His name is Kamau Kamban. Now, he said this on C-SPAN Live. Nothing happened to him. He's still living his best life, but America's racist. Okay.
And the one idea is how we are going to exterminate white people, because that, in my estimation, is the only conclusion I have come to. We have to exterminate white people off of the face of the planet to solve this problem.
But black people can't be racist.
You have never heard a white person do that on TV, ever. Y'all have never heard a white person get on TV and say that black folks should be exterminated. You've never heard that before in your life. You've never seen it. You've never seen that. You have never seen that.
And the one idea is how we are going to exterminate white people, because that, in my estimation, is the only conclusion I have come to. We have to exterminate white people off of the face of the planet to solve this problem.
This was on C-SPAN. This was live on C-SPAN. You all have never in your life seen a white person get on TV and say, we got to exterminate black people. Y'all have never heard anything close to that. You haven't. You've only heard black folks talk like this on all the like I said before, on all the networks. A black person can get on TV right now and say all white people are bad, and nobody will say a word. If a white person gets on TV and says all blacks are bad, it is a problem. They're going to lose everything. They're going to lose everything. So Marquette saying that black folks aren't the most racist is just a bold-faced lie. Even with white people being more emboldened now, they still won't say this. Think about it. The stuff white people are saying now being more is the truth. They're tired of black folks. The stuff white folks are saying now isn't even racist. White people have been given the green light to say whatever they want to say, and they're not saying racist stuff. Isn't that ironic? Let's continue. Let's continue.
So moral superiority isn't really about being moral, it's about identity. When someone wraps their sense of self around being one of the good ones, morality stops being a guide for behavior and starts being a shield. So psychologically, this feels safe, and they think if I'm morally right, I don't have to self-examine, I don't have to question my motives, and I don't have to change. That's why moral superiority shows up most when people feel threatened. So instead of asking, am I wrong, they ask, how dare you? So disagreement becomes an attack, questions become violence, and nuance becomes betrayal. And logic doesn't land because this is not a reasoning process, it's simply ego protection. So moral superiority also gives people something powerful, and that's status without effort. So you're not required to build anything, you're not required to improve, you just have to adopt the correct stance and look down on everyone else.
Who's he talking about? Who is he talking about? Who does it sound like he's talking about? Think about black people and how they have given themselves the moral authority, meaning that because they are not white and they are black, they're automatically more moral. They don't have to actually be moral, but because they're not white, they're actually more moral. So in other words, if white is seen as the oppressor and black is seen as the oppressed, then it goes to say that the oppressor is evil and the oppressed is good. And we can all agree, just because you're oppressed doesn't make you a good person. Just because you're a victim doesn't mean you're a good person. I know we're not used to seeing this and hearing this, but you could be a terrible person and still get victimized. But they've convinced people that if you are oppressed, you're automatically good. So, for example, Israel and Palestine, the Palestinians are automatically seen as good. Just because the stigma is they're oppressed, they're automatically seen as good. The flip side, the Jews automatically seen as bad. When in fact, they both could be bad. When in fact, they both are bad. The point I'm making is that black people, like he said, they're not actually doing anything. They're just being black. And because they're black, they get the moral hierarchy in society. Hold on, let me play it again.
It's betrayal. And logic doesn't land because this is not a reasoning process, it's simply ego protection. So moral superiority also gives people something powerful, and that's status without effort. So you're not required to build
Status without effort. That is a great statement. Black people have status without effort. So in other words, if you're born black, you get the status. Black folks haven't earned any of this. They haven't. They haven't. It was a propagandized history told to the world, and that shaped people's view of black people. So what had happened was the bar was lowered for black people. Everything bad that black folks do, they blame white people for. Think about it. Everything, the crime rate, who do they blame? White people. If we go to a black neighborhood, when the white folks were there and they were living with black people, the white folks said, we can't take it, we're going to leave. When the white folks left, the community went down. Now, you would think that when white flight took place, all of the hoods would have pyramids and be like ancient Kemet, but they weren't. You would have thought that when the white people left these neighborhoods, the black communities would have turned into ancient Kemet. And it would have been pyramids and sphinxes everywhere, but it wasn't. They turned into cesspools of death, destruction, and damnation. So when black people couldn't keep up their own communities, they blame white people. How about the homicide rate? They said the white folks taught them that. Any sin, any ill, any vice, anything that's negative in the black community, they all associated with white people. So that means that black people are out here existing with no responsibility and no accountability. Even when they were selling drugs to their own mama, when black men were giving their own mama crack, they still blame the white man. When the black man was giving his mother crack, they still blamed the white man. When the black man was pimping his own sister, he was pimping out his own, they still blame the white man. Today's title is False Confidence and Low Self-Esteem, the Black Man's Favorite Two-Piece Combo. When we dig into this thing, you're going to find that black men, they have a poor self-image and low self-esteem. They do. Most of what you see in black men is bravado. It's not real. It's smoke and mirrors.
Doesn't land because this is not a reasoning process. It's simply ego protection. So moral superiority also gives people something powerful, and that's status without effort. So you're not required to build anything. You're not required to improve. You just have to adopt the correct stance and look down on everyone else.
Status without effort also breeds contentment, which also leads to resentment because you know deep down you are not worthy of it. So you have a bunch of black people deep down inside knowing this racism stuff ain't really real. And you know it's not real? Because as soon as somebody black gets mad enough, they either want to call the police on you or they want to kill you. You know it's not real because when the black person gets mad enough, they are going to want to call the police on you or they are going to want to kill you. One of the two. Thank you, Marcus.
That's why it's addictive. But here's the irony in this. The more morally superior someone feels, the less curious they become. And curiosity is the engine of actual growth. So morality turns rigid, binary, and performative. And it stops being about doing good, and it starts being about being seen as good. So
he is describing black folks to a T. Moral superiority isn't morality, it's ego in disguise. He's describing black people to a T. To a T. Black people have been existing on a false notion. And now, in an information age, it was only a matter of time before folks knew the truth. You see, before the information age, everybody thought that black folks were this, and this. But in the information age, you see it's not true. It's not true. Corey Holcomb said, what did white men do to ruin this country. I would ask Corey a question. What did black men do to ruin this country? And what are they doing now to ruin this country? Forget the past. What are black men doing now to ruin the country? You notice that without the past, they have no leg to stand on. They have no leg to stand on without that past. And again, that past is propaganda and programming.
The thing is, real morality is uncomfortable. It asks you to look at yourself, to admit blind spots, and to hold two ideas at once, right? So moral superiority avoids all that. It replaces responsibility with righteousness. And the moment someone needs to announce how moral they are, you've learned something very important. They're trying to convince themselves first.
So when you hear black people saying, man, I'm black, I'm a black man, I'm a black woman, we done died for this. When you try to convince them, nobody believes it. Nobody believes it. If black people truly built America, there is no way their neighborhoods would be this trashy. If black people truly built this country like they said they did, there is no way your neighborhoods would look the way they do. There's no way. But you don't really believe you built the country. Because you believe you built the country, then guess what? Your street being clean matters. Your neighborhood being drug-free matters. Your neighborhood not having violence matters. If you really built America, your immediate environment would reflect that. So your schools being raggedy now, you wouldn't allow it. Drugs, prostitution, homicides, you wouldn't allow it. Because you're going to say, we built this. We got pride in it. So a nation of people that don't have any pride didn't build anything. A nation of people that does not have pride in where they live and what they do didn't build anything. It's a lie. I don't believe it. Blanche, what's the solution? I don't think it can be untaught. I'm going to say this about a solution. The solution is truly Christ. And I'm gonna bring it back. So think about this for a second. The Bible says that it is impossible to please God without faith. Now we know that culturally, white people have faith. Why? Because they're accused of conquering the world. It takes faith to conquer the world. Can we agree? So black people, their biggest problem, they don't have any faith. You see, black people have a choice to make. They can believe in God or they can believe in what the white man's going to give them. They chose the latter. So the solution is Christ. But guess what? Satan got the white people to make Jesus look white because Satan knew that y'all gonna have a problem with it. Think about Christ being white and how much that's going to deter future believers. Even though Christ isn't white, but the fact that there's pictures of white Jesus floating around, how much that's going to deter future believers. The enemy is clever. I'm going to make this thing about race, even in the end, division. Well, the solution for anybody is Christ. Black, white, don't matter. The world solution is Christ. So black folks not following Christ is on black people. Most folks not going to follow Christ. Because think about it. It takes faith to follow Jesus. It takes faith. So the fact that black people are still marching and protesting and rioting and looting in 2026 lets you know they don't have any faith. Think about it. If black folks had faith, they would trust God. Black folks have proven they cannot defeat the white man. They've proven this. So their alternative is to get in line, which is what they've been doing, get in line or turn to God. But the fact that black people are marching and protesting in 2026 lets you know they don't have any faith. Real talk, Nikki, as it says in John 15:5, we're nothing without God. Way too many are carnal and not spiritual. And it says in Romans 8:8 that the flesh can't please God. Black people are all about the flesh. You know why? They're all about appearance. I said this before. The indication of sin is flesh. Think about the one thing that shows everybody that we're in sin is our flesh. And that very thing is what black folks hold to the highest standard. Skin color. Everything is about skin color. So y'all don't think I'm playing with y'all real quick. Genesis chapter 3, verse 7. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked, and they sewed fig leaves together and made themselves aprons. So when their eyes were open and they were able to see their flesh, they were in sin. So the fact that you could even see color, and actually, when people say, I don't see color, that's actually biblically what it should be, because you shouldn't be in sin. The irony of white people having a slogan, we don't see color, actually going with the scripture, because the fact that we can see color lets us know we're in a fallen state. So your skin, black people, is an indication that you all are in sin. And that very thing is what black folks hold on to the most. Matter of fact, they hold on to it so much they want to make God black, Jesus black, Santa Claus black. Let's continue. Let's continue.
That blacks are making prior to the modern day civil rights movement is something we seldom study or discuss or take into account in any length. And I think this is a period of time that deserves a lot more study. What were blacks doing to narrow gaps that were narrowing at this time and have since either stalled, slowed, or in some senses reversed course and started to widen again? And my point is that blacks were focused on developing that human capital.
And they were doing so.
And they were doing that. We get the 1960s.
Right.
And the shift, there's a shift to acquiring political capital, integrating political institutions.
Play it again for y'all. Play it again. Anybody know this guy's name? Anybody know this guy's name right here? If you know it, please put it in the chat. I'm trying to find his name tonight.
Advancements that blacks are making prior to the modern day civil rights movement is something we seldom study or discuss or take into account in any length. And I think this is a period of time that deserves a lot more study. What were blacks doing to narrow gaps that were narrowing at this time?
Jason L. Riley, thank you so much. He has a book called Please Stop Helping Us. I love that title.
Advancements that blacks are making prior to the modern day civil rights movement is something we seldom study or discuss or take into account in any length. And I think this is a period of time that deserves a lot more study. What were blacks doing to narrow gaps that were narrowing at this time and have since either stalled, slowed, or in some senses reversed course and started to widen again. And my point is that blacks were focused on developing that human capital.
And they were doing so.
And they were doing that. We get the 1960s.
Right.
And the shift, there's a shift to acquiring political capital, integrating political institutions.
So what I find interesting is that before there was this whole concept of blackness, black folks were doing better. Before there was this concept, this ideology of blackness, before black folks wanted to be in politics and education, they were doing better. You all tell me during the worst time in American history, black folks were doing better. Now, the problem is that what you all don't realize because you're slow is that it's called progress. If you've ever ridden a roller coaster, the good ones, you got to go up that to the highest peak first with the chains. You got to go up. Progress. You got to go up. Then you start the roller coaster ride. What I'm saying is that black people didn't have a chance from 1865 to 1960. It's not even 100 years. It's not even 100 years. So imagine if black people had the progress for 100 years, 200 years. See what I mean? You see, because it got stopped during the progress, black folks' minds get stuck right there. No. Italians were allowed to progress. Irish allowed to progress. Asians allowed to progress. Hispanic allowed to progress. Immigrants allowed to progress. Everybody was allowed to progress. Only one group said, let's sabotage our progress. That was black people. Black folks were the only group of people that said, we want to stop all progress. We want to go backwards. No other group did that. Black folks did that. And instead of y'all being honest, you blame white people. Instead of you all being honest, you blame white people. You see, your problem, black people, is that you don't have any internal fortitude because you don't believe anything that you can't see or touch or taste or smell. That's your problem. You don't aspire for something greater. You don't see anything greater. You think your purpose in life is being black. You think your purpose in life is being black. And when life throws a curveball at you, you think it's racism. You think it's oppression. You think it's white supremacy. When in actuality, it's just life. That's all. It's just life. J.V. Chanel says, black people reject long suffering and sacrifice, which is biblical. They want everything quick and easy. That's why there's little to no intergenerational wealth or investments. It's true. Black people reject long suffering and sacrifice, which is biblical. They want everything quick and easy. That's why there's little to no intergenerational wealth or investment. So if you want things quick and easy, you will not develop your character. If you don't develop character, you are going to be what black folks are today, a disgrace. If you don't develop character, you are going to take sides with Satan. You develop your character through long suffering and sacrifice. That's why that way when adversity comes, it reveals your character. But your character is built every single day. And the Bible says that faith comes by hearing, and hearing the word of God. But if faith comes by hearing, you stop right there, then your faith will be in everything you heard. Which is why Black folks are so attached to entertainment and propaganda, because they love to listen to foolishness, but not the word of God. Black folks love to listen to foolishness, but not the word of God. Faith comes by hearing and hearing the word of God. If you don't add that word of God, your faith will be everything you heard. If you don't have character, you will do the will of Satan, which is what Black folks are doing. Let's continue.
Can I be honest with you? The Black community is over. There is no community. That shit is a fairy tale. It's just neighborhoods. Neighborhoods filled with a bunch of people who don't want to be around each other. And as soon as they get some money, they're going to move the hell out. I mean, everyone's tired of the bullshit. Everyone's tired of that toxic mentality and behavior that's perpetuated every day within that community. That whole notion of Black unity, that shit is a myth. You only see Black unity on camera, because if you're in public, you're waiting online at a grocery store or anywhere you go where it's a bunch of us there, the tensions are high. I mean, you're a hard stare or a shoulder bump away from your family's gathering for your funeral. And the sad part is, it wasn't always like that. I mean, I really miss the Black folks of the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and some of the 80s and 90s, because at least they had culture, they had ethics, they had sense, you know, pride, real pride. Those people had real life experiences. They really experienced racism. What do you have to complain about? It's insane. And they're always crying racism. Black men and women hate each other, but they always find time to love each other when it's time to clap cheeks. I mean, I guess that's why the single mother household is over 75% within the Black community. I mean, Black women are so strong and independent until they need taxpayers to help pay their rent and medical bills. And Black men, all they worry about is keeping it real, vanity, keeping up with the Joneses, rather than being productive members of society and building a nest before they produce an egg. I mean, the culture's backwards. And rather than talk about real shit like high crime and the worship of celebrities, Black people are too busy thinking about racism and what white people think of them. That's not gonna fix your situation.
There's a few things there I didn't agree with, but I agree with most of it. 95% of it I agree with. I think that Black culture, what we see today, was happening back then. We just didn't know it. It was happening back then in the 50s and 60s. Like, to me, it was happening. It had been happening. It's just, again, remember, progress. You give things time. So imagine Black people stopped their progress in America, but when that progress stopped, the degenerate progress kept going. So this kind of the positive progress keeps the negative progress moving slower. But once you get rid of the positive, the negative shoots up. That's what happened. That's what happened. Let's continue. Bless me.
This your Black Panther Party leader. He was putting on a red hat, red shirt, Paru blood 6 months ago.
Weeks ago with a protester. He talked about protesters in Portland being taken in unmarked vehicles by
He was putting on, he got him.
Let me start over. Malcolm X said in the 60s, he said in Harlem, we need a hospital more than anything. because our people are sick. Plus, they do a lot of shooting and stabbing of each other. They profess to be nonviolent. So the violence in the Black community was there in the 50s and 60s. It was there. I did a whole series on the welfare state. That culture was there. That black culture was there. It was just kept at bay. Then the civil rights movement came and opened the floodgates. So that's what really happened. Excuse me. What happened was the civil rights movement, the welfare state, communism, they promoted the degeneracy. That's what happened.
He got him. This your Black Panther Party leader. He was putting on a red hat, red shirt, Paru blood 6 months ago.
Weeks ago with a protester. He talked about protesters in Portland being taken in unmarked vehicles by agents. But during the interview, he talks about gangs in Lansing.
You come try to snatch one of us, the rest of us gonna blast you.
It's the same script.
You better do that while we not with
Like
each other.
Saints Row
And then you
2,
come
bro.
over, come to Sandhurst with the Pyrus and the gangster disciples.
Stillwater
linked up
ass
there. You try
gangster.
to snatch somebody over there, I dare you.
Wow. Then they got the feds react to it.
Make sure you get this in Sandhurst, that's S-A-N-D.
Or whenever it happened, I'll be wondering if somebody like be said this.
Do you understand how bold? Now, Marquette, this guy is black. He's saying that he gonna blast the ICE agents. He on TV, on national TV, saying he gonna blast the ICE agents. No consequence, Marquette. No consequence. Matter of fact, he went from Pyru to Black Panther Party. He got promoted. He gonna blast the ICE agents, which really means we going to, because ICE represents white. Anything of authority, structure, rules, order represents white. You see him, Marquette. You see him, right? Black man on TV saying he gonna blast ICE agents, no consequence. But America's racist. Okay.
I wonder if they gonna catch this. I be wondering if like somebody be setting this script up. I wonder if they gonna really connect, and if they do, it don't matter because people don't get like they ain't gonna care. Like he gonna already be on to the next thing, and they just use these same little actors. Where else?
So this guy, he went from gang member to Black Panther Party, which should let you know that anything you see that's black is not organic. There is no black organic organization, zero. None. Okay, I got one more. Let me see, I got one more video.
Have you ever seen Fresh Prince? There's an episode where Carlton and Will get arrested while driving a Benz. Carlton thinks it's because they're acting suspicious, but Will is convinced it's because they're black. Now the show wants you to believe that Carlton is naive and Will is worldly. But what I saw was Carlton choose accountability, while Will chose victimhood. You see, Carlton was taught to assume responsibility, so it never even occurred to him to blame anything but himself. Will, on the other hand, learned to point fingers, so it never even occurred to him that he was at fault. And most of you are just like Will. You've never actually experienced racism or any real discrimination. You've just been conditioned to look for scapegoats. They taught you about oppression, then left you up to your own devices, and you oppressed yourself, then fought for your rights to continue doing so. What's holding you back isn't systemic, it's mental. Every single person who believes the color of their skin is a hindrance is hindered by the color of their skin. Everyone who doesn't, isn't. Do with that what you will.
You heard what he just said?
Continue doing so. What's holding you back isn't systemic, it's mental. Every single person who believes the color of their skin is a hindrance is hindered by the color of their skin. Everyone who doesn't, isn't. Do with that what you will.
So what you all realize, and I'm speaking to Black people, is that your attitude determines your altitude. Your thoughts are going to shape your reality. So if you walk around and believe that you are oppressed and a victim, you will live an oppressed person's and victim's life. It's just that simple. You know, Black people claim to be these higher beings and higher vibrational beings and divine and all this, but it's not true. Black folks have a very low vibrational existence. Why? Because their mental is weak. You don't have a strong mind because you believe that you're oppressed, so you don't believe in God. If white people have the power to oppress you in 2026, if white people have the power to oppress you in 2026, we're talking about centuries of oppression, then guess what? That's who your God is. That's your God. So I want to encourage you Black men today, I do, to stop making excuses. It's not the white man. It's not white supremacy. It's not oppression. It's not America. It's not the government. It's none of that. It's you. It's you. When you look in the mirror, you see a poor example of a man, and it shows. Now you run around here saying that you're a king and a God, act like it. If you're truly a king and a God, then act like it. That's all I have for today. Listen, I love you all. I thank y'all. I'll be doing part 2 on Thursday. But listen, I love y'all, and I will see y'all soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. All right, I'm going.